So the first thing we want to do is we want to take the page and cut it in half. Okay, so it fits onto our composition notebooks very easily. Then you're going to put glue in each corner of the page. You do not need a lot of glue. If you use a lot of glue, you won't be able to write on the page. And we're just going to place it in our composition notebook. Okay, we're going to do that to both pages. Just like that. We're going to leave a little bit of space up at the top. That's for our title. Today's title is Exponents. So we're going to write that at the top of our page, really big. Okay, and then we're going to label our pages. The first page is page 4, and the second page is page 5. And we're not going to worry about putting a label on page 5 just because it's exponents. It's just the second page. So we're going to get started. It says blanks. A blank are numbers being multiplied. The blank goes in there is factors. Factors are numbers that are being multiplied. So I've got some examples down here. When I'm looking, 6 and 3, those are being multiplied. So those are called factors. And the same thing over here with 2, 3, and 4. We know they're being multiplied because they have this dot between them. The dot is not down here like a decimal. It is in the middle. That is a multiplication sign. So these are called factors. Something else that we can look at right now is that we also have what is called a product. 18 is the product of 6 and 3. And 24 is the product of 2, 3, and 4. Those are just some key vocabulary words. Those are especially important when we start to practice our ERQs and our short answers. We want to know the difference between a factor and a product. When your factors are the same, you can simplify it by writing it with an exponent. The base, B-A-S-E, is the number being multiplied, and the exponent tells you how many times to multiply the base to itself. So we have some examples down here. We have 6 times 6. That is repeated multiplication. We see 6 2 times. Our base is the number being multiplied, and our exponent tells you how many times. 1, 2. And that still equals 36. Same thing over here. We have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's repeated multiplication. So we have 2, the number being multiplied, and we see that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So our exponent is 4, and that still equals 16. Expressions that use a base and an exponent are called powers. P-O-W-E-R-S. So we have our 6, which is our base, our 2, which is an exponent, our 36 is still called a product. But now, if I combine the 6 and the 2, the exponent with the base, this all together is called a power. P-O-W-E-R. Okay, so let's look at some examples. The first example we want to use is a base of 5 and an exponent of 2. When 2 is your exponent, it has a very special name. So for this one, it would be 5 squared. 2 means squared, just means twice. So in words, we would write 5 squared. Next, let's try 4 with an exponent of 3. 3 also has a very special name whenever it is an exponent. For this one, we would call it 4 cubed. Cubed just means 3 times. Those are our 2 special examples, squared and cubed. Anything else would be to that power. So if we had 3 with an exponent of 4, that would just be 3 to the 4th power. If we put a 5 in there, that would be 3 to the 5th power. If we put a 100 in there, it would be 3 to the 100th power. The only special ones are 2 and 3. Okay, it says any number raised to 0 is 1. Now this is very, very tricky. I always have people who, when they see that 0 up there, they automatically want to say that that is a 0, but it is not. Any number raised to the 0 power is 1. So 2 to the 0 power equals 1. 10 to the 0 power equals 1. You could have 1,000 to the 0 power. It still equals 1. Okay, that's something very important for us to remember. Another thing to remember is that any number raised to itself, any number raised to 1 is itself. So for example, 3 to the 1st power is 3. 140 to the 1st power is 140. This one makes a little more sense to me. It makes more sense than the previous rule. Okay, so let's practice just a little bit in our different forms. We have a few different forms that we look at. The first form is called exponential form. Exponential form is just written as a base and an exponent. Expanded form is basically how would you do that math. So for this one, our base is 2. We're going to see our base 4 times. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Then standard form is just our answer. What would the answer be? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, next we have 4 times 4 times 4. So I know my base is 4. That's the number being multiplied. And my exponent, I see it 1, 2, 3 times. So it is 4 cubed. Okay, so when I multiply this out, 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. This next one is tricky. We have 25 as standard form, and now we need to figure out what numbers could we multiply together to get 25, and what would that be in exponential form. Well, I'm thinking about 25, and I know I have to have 2 of the same numbers, at least 2 of them, and I know that 5 times 5 gives me 25. So if I put 5 times 5, that would give me 25. And 5 squared would be exponential form. Next we have 6 cubed. 6 cubed means 6 times 6 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times 6 is 216. Last one, we have 625. This one is a tough one. Okay, there could be a couple different answers for this one. If I start out, I know that it ends in a 5, so I want to think about my 5s. I know that 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5, that would be my third 5, would give me 125. So what about 125 times 5? That would give me my 625. So it could be 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, which is 5 to the 4th power. However, I could justify 25 times 25. That would give me 625. And that would be 25 squared. So either of those answers would have been correct. Okay, next page. I want you to try these on your own with a pencil. At this point, I would really like for you to try to do these on your own. So if you would like to pause the video, and I'm going to go over them very quickly. So pause the video, try them on your own, and then I will try them with you. Okay, so the first one is 7 squared. That's 7 times 7. 7 times 7 is 49. The second one, we've got 4 to the 4th power. 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 would give us 256. Next we have 8 cubed. That's 8 times 8 times 8. 8 times 8 times 8 is 512. This is another tricky one. We have 125 in standard form. That's our answer. We need to multiply 5 times 5 times 5, which is also 5 cubed. Next we have 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So that's 10 to the 5th power. 10 to the 5th power is 100,000. A little trick about tens. Anytime you have 10 as a base, your exponent tells you how many zeros you will have. So this says we'll have 5 zeros. In our answer, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Same thing down here with 10 cubed. That's 10 times 10 times 10, which would be 1,000. Our exponent is 3. We have 3 zeros in our answer. Okay, this next one, 32. We have to think about what we can multiply together to get 32. Well, I would like to start with 2's. We have 2 times 2, which would give us 4, times 2, that would give us 8, times 2 would give us 16, times 2 would give us 32. So that is 2 to the 5th power. We have 6 4 times, so that is 6 to the 4th power. 6 to the 4th power is 1,296. Next we have 5 to the 1st power. Remember, anything to the 1st power is itself, so that would just be 5, and then once again 5 as our answer. 3, we see that 5 times, so it is 3 to the 5th power. 3 to the 5th power would be 243. Okay, next we have 2 cubed. Is 2 cubed the same as 3 squared? Justify your answer. Okay, so I want you to think about this. What does 2 cubed actually mean? 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2. So what would the answer to that be? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 would give us 8. Okay. So think about 3 squared. 3 squared means 3 times 3. We know that 3 times 3 is 9. So are they the same thing? No. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2, which equals 8, and 3 squared means 3 times 3, which equals 9. Okay, the last thing we're going to look at is squares, and that's where that squared comes from. It just means 2 sides. So it says the formula for area of a square is area equals side squared, where S represents side length. Find the area of these squares. So I know my formula is A equals S squared. So I fill in what is my side length. My side length is 6 inches, and I bring down my exponent. 6 squared means 6 times 6, which is 36. So my answer would be 36 inches squared. And we want to get in the habit of circling our answers. I like to bubble or cloud mine in. So whatever you want to do is fine. Just make sure that you make your answer stand out. Very last one, another square. We have A equals side squared. Our side length is 3 centimeters. So we have 3 squared. 3 squared would be 3 times 3, which is 9. Don't forget your label, which is centimeters. And that is squared. Go ahead and circle that. And we are complete.